Hey there, happy Father's Day weekend to all of you aquarium gangsters. Today's June 14, I believe, 2025. Jeremy right here with the Arkansas Planet Aquarium Club, and I'm just doing a run through. It's time for some major aquarium maintenance once again around here. Those of you who followed for a while know that this is Tank A. It's roughly a Central American and fish and plants 55-gallon display tank, just a really standard type tank, with the exception of being a huge explosion of jungle life above and below the water. So tank A right now probably needs a pound and a half of plant matter removed from it, and most of that is going to be guppy grass, Najas guadalupensis, a little bit of hornwort, Certophyllum demersum, and Egeria densa, Brazilian waterweed, which is this stuff right here, often called Anacharis. That's a defunct name that actually probably as often as not gets used for hydrilla, which is a banned plant here in the US. Anyway, what I'm really doing today is running through, and I'm going to tell you what I'm about to do with each of these tanks, and then hopefully within the next week or so I'm going to drop another video of all of my tanks after tank maintenance. So tank A, basically all it needs, the water quality is great, but it's just way overgrown. You can't see what's going on in there. So looking up at tank B, Tank B recently got a large water change. I actually loaded a video of this last night, I believe it was. And about 3 days ago, I did a short where I did, probably a 75 to 80% water change. Water quality was good, but the tannins were really high. Sorry, that's my 3-year-old in the other room. We might have a little bit of sound effects going on. Anyway, this tank, it's doing really well. So we can see these guys hanging out doing well. There's also a little group of small fishies hanging out over here. So tank B, I'm going to kind of gloss over. So yeah, I had to close the bathroom door and let my little girl play with the My Little Ponies to herself for a moment. So yeah, tank B, 55-gallon. It's another Central American tank, very similar to the one below in the fact that it's soil, mixed soil, prepared soil under sand, planted. This tank's got a lot less light than the one below. So let's move along to tank C. All right, I'm hanging in here with little L for a second, and here's tank C. So this is similarly kind of an overgrown jungle. This is just a little 3.5-gallon tank that's got some hybrid Endler gups and quite a few plants. You know, I probably won't do much maintenance in here. I might think about pulling some moss out. Otherwise, we're doing pretty well. Moving on. Okay, bye, Lauren. Tank D is a 20-gallon tall Asian themed tank. Now there's one guppy in here, which is kind of funny, and I guess I'm just gonna leave it in here. Otherwise, white cloud mountain minnows, cherry barbs. The cherry barbs are breeding. There are a few Asian plants that I really don't want in here. One of them I probably shouldn't even talk about. We're gonna skip over that one because I shouldn't have it. I should destroy it. If you spot it, cool, good for you. This tank has, well, I'll just say it was off to a rough start going about 3 years ago. It started out as a betta tank. Actually, even before that, it was a micro-invertebrate tank, just like little seed shrimp, daphnia, things like that were just from outside. And then I thought, you know what? One of my bettas would love this thing. So I put him in here, and he ravaged all of that micro-invertebrate population really quickly. But this tank has been growing plants really well. Actually, just a couple of weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago, this Higer lamp just was chock full of water. Like if I picked it up, it was like literally like it had water dripping out of it. It never stopped working. So kudos to Higer. You guys are great. Nick Higer, you're awesome. Thank you. Otherwise, this tank's great. It also has a supplemental panel light, just a grow light that kind of kicks on in the middle of the day. But for the most part, just rocking along. And similarly, it needs some plant matter removed, primarily the floaters up top. Yeah, you can see it's just got too much going on, and it really shades what's going on below here. For the most part, this tank similarly has so much going on, I can't really see my fish. Otherwise, it's a really healthy tank. The water quality's fantastic. I just can't see it real well. So let's move on to tank E. So I'm back here in the guest bathroom with Lauren, who's playing with some My Little Ponies, and tank E, just a little 5-gallon. This was a guppy tank. I say was, this is a guppy tank, but it's just mutt guppies. So we're gonna try and get a view in here and see what there is to be seen. They're finally actually growing in number because I removed the Arctic white convict cichlid that was in here pretty recently. And sorry for that reflection, I know, it's just rough, right? Bright room. Not a lot to talk about in this tank other than this is maybe my only pure gravel bottom tank. It's unfiltered, but it's got a lot of plant growth. So you can see Chinese evergreen, arrowheads, arrowhead plant, pothos. What else is coming up out of here? An aluminum plant that's pilia, and Mexican petunia. I actually just trimmed this one today. I sold a bit of that. Mexican petunia is really a simplex. So, you know, that's what's going on in here. So no filter, just a lot of plant growth. And let's see what's behind here. I'm going to show you the stuff right up there. Actually, there's not much to show right now. This is where I put mosses and like maybe Siswassertang, Riccia, things like that have algae or like blue cyanobacteria growing in them. And I put them over here because there's not a light directly above this. Now there is ambient light from the room, and this is just a cup that I fill up basically on a daily basis. I'm gonna run to another room. So yeah, we changed rooms so you can hear me a little better. Little L just likes to play loudly. So in that other room, the pineapple looking cup, I fill that up on a daily basis and let it sit out overnight, and then top off my nano tanks with that, or jars, and you know, after the chlorine is gassed off. Otherwise, those small jars that were sitting on the shelf on the wall are basically in there to just time out growth on algae. So if there's something like let's see down in here, this is tank G. We're not actually reviewing this tank yet, but I'm just seeing if there's something that, yeah, there's some algae in there. Okay, so like right there, like let's say that was, rather than roots, that was like some moss or some Siswassertang. I would pull that out, throw it in one of those jars, leave it there for a month or two. All that algae would go away, but the moss or Siswassertang or whatever else, more complex plants would survive that. So we've talked about tanks up through E. Let's go to tank F. Tank F is down here. Now the lights have already turned off on this one for the night, for the evening. It's probably 6 p.m. right now, so the light just kicked off. This little tank, it's another 5-gallon. I've got 3 5-gallon tanks. This is the second of those. This one has White Galaxy mosaic guppies from 2022 or 2023 Aquashella Dallas. This was tank F for frog. It had leopard frog tadpoles 2 years ago, and then it had American toad tadpoles last year. I should have shown more about the American toads, but they, it just wasn't as interesting to me. We did our thing. It was kind of fun. This tank generally is just a stuffed full jungle, kind of like some of my other tanks. Because of that, you can't really see what all's going on in here, but we will try, right? We'll try. That's about all we're gonna see in here. You know, reflection of me, reflection of a yellow cat litter bucket down here. Those are really frequently used in my hobbying, indoors and outdoors. That one just holds cat food. But tank F, yeah. White galaxy mosaic guppies, some ram's horn snails, probably some Malaysian trumpet snails, hydrocaudal being Brazilian pennywort, knotweed. This is just a local plant. Knotweed grows really well. It's actually, some people call this Japanese knotweed, but it's naturalized across at least the southeast US. There are a lot of native plants down in here. Up above it, Tradescantia zebrina, more Ruellia simplex, which is Mexican petunia. Beautiful purple flowers on that. And, you know, more stuff to see when the light's on. Otherwise, this brown stuff, this is the knotweed, the old stems. They're not dead. They're just kind of ready to go. They're not putting out fresh leaves, but everything around here is growing really well. So back over to tank G. We peeked at this. G's for guppies, I guess. This is another just mutt guppy tank, really. And so this one has a Sea Aura light that I was reviewing a while ago. It's an okay light. It's an okay light. What I don't like about this is it's difficult to change the time of day on the timer. You actually have to like come through and click this thing at the time you want it to come on, rather than just like the Hygger lamps or some other higher end lamps that you can just tell it sort of what time of day it is and it keeps going. This one, no. The Sea Aura light, at least this series, you have to set whatever 6, 8, 12 hours at the time that you want it to come on. So if I don't catch it at like, you know, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. when I want to mess with it, I just have to wait and turn it on, turn it off manually, and then the next time I'm over here at that time of day, I can actually do something. Otherwise, kind of similar stuff going on. This tank, Philippine fern, pothos. Next to it, celery is growing, just up out of some water. That's kind of cool. Ludwigias, regular Java fern, arrowids, a lot of the things that I would normally be growing in the tank. This is the one that I really frequently harvest Siswasser tang out of from over here. So I'm gonna walk around and show you the other side of this tank. All right, still in tank G. I just harvested quite a bit of Siswasser tang out of here to sell off. And, you know, I wish I didn't have so much algae in this. This tank probably has more algae growth than any of my others, and that's my fault. What I probably need to do is cut down the time on the lighting. I can see that there's some bubbles coming off that algae. The algae's purling. It's doing well. Now, I don't need it to do that well, so since I can't remove the roots, well, I could remove those roots, algae and all, and that's actually probably not a bad idea because the plant's not gonna suffer too much from that. That might be what I do. So this tank needs some maintenance. I need to adjust the time of the light, and I need to, you know, I might even swap lights. But I also need to trim and remove a lot of that algae. And I think the only way I'm going to get it out of there is just to actually physically cut those roots. Those roots seem to be from Arrowhead and Ruellia simplex. And that's just, no, maybe that's the Ruellia simplex roots. Maybe that's all Arrowhead plant roots. I'll have to decide on that. But all the same, This is tank G. This is a 10-gallon. Now this is the oldest tank in my hobby. This one came from my grandmother's house. So when I was under 10 years old, I'm 42 now. When I was under 10 years old, my grandmother got this tank. This was like her second or third aquarium that she let me and my sister play in. My sister's not really into this hobby. I was deep into it from the time I was pretty young. But yeah, this is the oldest tank in my hobby, resealed fairly recently, and it's jamming along. This is probably year 2 that it's been running here. Now we've made it to tank H. I believe this is a 37-gallon roughly cube. It's not actually cubic, but it's roughly cubic. And right now, what's going on in here? 1 gold angel, 3 common goldies. So the goldfish were all fish that I just adopted because there were, I guess I'm hanging out in my goldfish shirt right now. But my daughter calls one of them Goldilocks, another one is Rapunzel, and you know, that one's Goldilocks. I know which one Goldilocks is, but the other 2 common goldfish were placed in here more recently. This used to be one of my convict cichlid colonies, and there were maybe 20 of them in here. And I just decided to combine that with another tank and then put them in the second tank that I showed you, tank B, which is the upper 55-gallon there in my living room. But this is my foyer, and this tank was reestablished maybe 3 months ago. I never really tore it down, but given that it was a convict tank, it didn't have a lot of plants in it. So when I did a large water change and then removed the convicts, I had an opportunity to plant it out. But now that there are goldfish in here, they are just destroying some of the softer tissue plants, like this myriophyllum. They're just killing it. Cool. They destroyed my, actually a tougher plant that I didn't think they would destroy. They got it pretty solidly. That was a mermaid weed. Oh gosh, what do you call that stuff? Dang. Well, I hit pause thinking I would remember, but whatever. Brain's failing. Brain fails all the time. That's a kind of killer Philippine fern there in the middle, though. It's doing great. And the plants that are growing up and out of this tank, probably worth noting. A dragon wing or cane begonia, doing really well. Growing right up into the light, so that's some maintenance I need to do over here. I need to get that off the light, trim it down like somewhere way further. Usually about this time of day, I come through and click that off. Problems with this tank? Well, actually it's kind of cleared up. I was gonna say there was some surface scuzz, but just clearing out the pre-filter sponge on this filter, which is that guy right down there, increased the water flow, really made it a lot more enjoyable. Took care of the surface scuzz problem. This is an interesting plant. I hope it survives. It's been here 4 months, but it's got, oh, look here. Right in there. Let's see if we can get a focus on there. It's got some aphids. So I noticed this plant was looking a little droopy. Now I know why. That's some other maintenance I have to do over here. So I'll have to keep an eye out on all this stuff for aphids. Chinese evergreen, another Ruellia simplex. This is just a clematis that I'm rooting in here. Hoping it roots anyway. What else? This is dog fennel. Arrowids. They tend to close up sometimes if they've got too much water or too much light. I'm not entirely positive. Oh, look, there are a couple of aphids on this guy too. We'll do a little squishy action going on over here. Not happy about that. From time to time, I'll stick some spiders or something over here, hoping that they'll get some of that stuff, but it doesn't seem like that's working too well right now. So overall, it's a healthy tank, but yeah, it's got a plant above it that's got some aphids, a plant above it that's just growing too tall, and oh, I'll tell you a little bit about these lights. So I've rigged up this little panel light system. This is these are some Damia panel grow lights that I just needed up higher to grow some of this stuff. And these are just some like 6,500 Kelvin regular old LED light bulbs that are just down in here adding some extra light because there's not a light directly over this tank. So let's, well gosh, that was tank H. I think this is tank I right next to it. This is another 5-gallon. No filter, no light, no heater, just sitting here being a super low tech, ultra low tech, maybe even. Endler's Live Bearer tank. So it jams along. You can see I have a note written here. It would be nice if I bought a hang-on back. Sometime probably 6 or 8 months ago I wrote that. I never bought a hang-on back for it. It seems fine. It's pretty dark right now though, so I think this tank could use a partial water change just because it's got quite a bit of tannins in here. Not because it's unhealthy. Water quality seems fine. KH and GH could probably come up just a bit in here, but it's doing okay. Let's see if we can get a peek in there a little bit further. Quite a bit growing in here. Java ferns, Philippine ferns, some more Ruellia, hornwort. More Java ferns. So Swassertang's doing really nicely in there, actually. But yeah, it's probably time that it does have a heater in there. It's unplugged. I think it's time to do a partial water change on this one. It'll probably look a little clearer next time I share it. Now we've made it to tank J. This is another 37-gallon, but it's a very different form factor than the cube one that I shared. This actually is one of my favorite aquariums. So the fish in here, pretty cool. These are award-winning flame guppies. Kind of a homebrew. Years ago, I developed this strain and started showing them. There are some fish that need to be culled from this tank. It's a little difficult to catch the fish that you want from in here, believe it or not. But I'm gonna try and do a close-up so we can see through here without the glare. Yeah, good looking fishies though. In here there are pearlweed, hornwort, our local Linodium. I'm forgetting the species name of that, but it's not Amazon frogbit. This is a native to Arkansas. Let me kind of show you. So it's got slightly more heart-shaped leaves. Actually, no, this is just the local one. I was going to say it might have some Amazon in it, but no. That's the pearlweed right there. A little bit over here. There is some what do we call it? Roripa. I don't know if we're going to get a view of that, but it's the plant kind of center. And it's known as water cabbage. It does well submerged and emergent. Really likes having its feet in the water. There's a little bit of water lettuce on there too. I should probably remove that. Hornwort, Tradescantia zebrina, Ruellia simplex, pothos growing up out of here. And then down under the water line, there's some Mirio. That's an Ulvasia. Quite a bit of moss and stuff in here. Some nice hardscape. This is always a really hard tank to shoot because of the reflections, because of the lighting right behind me. Just in these bright grow areas, it's just hard to catch stuff. Some of these things like Sorusus, lizard's tail, and think there's a nymphaea in here. And some of these local mosses. That's actually feather moss. But because it's so hard to shoot, I'm going to cut on that one and glide over to some of these. No fish in here. Now, this is the same frog bit that I was showing in the previous tank. It's a local Southeast US Limnobium. There's also a lot of Riccia fluitans in here. And that's really all this thing is growing, other than some snails, some arrowheads, some Chinese evergreen, a little bit of pothos. That's actually, the pothos isn't making it in there, so that's kind of cool though. This pothos plant, it's going up and around and down in there, and gosh, it goes a long way. It goes a long way. Up into there, down here, and up and across this stuff, and finally we find the end of it here. So that's kind of what's going on with that guy. There's another end of it, but yeah, it's all the same plant. So moving over here, back into these grow bins. This is another fishless tank. It's got a little bit of Brazilian pennywort hydrocaudal, little bits of Riccia fluitans, some other floaters. Looks like little bits of actually, that's Phyllanthus fluitans, red root floater. Kind of same stuff as in here. You can see the hydrocaudal, the Brazilian pennywort's flowering. Looks like one of these is kind of dry, having a hard time. I cut these and sell them pretty often. Just earlier today, I cut a pretty long stem that was coming down here. This is probably the one. Yep. And this is another fishless bin. This one is a mutt guppy bin. It's got some Salvinium minima, floating fern hanging out on top of it, more pennywort, and then lastly, another mutt guppy colony with just some floaters and some duckweed and stuff down in here. These guys basically, oh, there's actually more than just, it looks like there's quite a bit of Egeria densa in there also. I probably need to harvest some plants out of this one, give them some room to swim around, maybe both of these. And let's go look at some of the other stuff. Light has already kicked off over here on this little 1 gallon orange Neocaridina shrimp tank. So if you want to see that, look at some of my other videos. I've got them in there, but we can't really see in here right now just because of the time of day. But we can see some Neocaridina shrimp over here. This is a red reely. I'm gonna zoom. So this is a little 3.5 gallon red reely shrimp tank. It's a tank that I adopted from a friend. So it does have some engineered aqua soil rather than my normal brew of soil under sand. But this tank is just jamming. It took me a little bit to get the algae under control after I got it, but I've probably had this tank 3 or 4 months now, and it's doing well. Zooming back out. Most of the planting I did, with the exception of this palm here, and oh, my little petunia didn't do well. I was hoping this guy would take off. Didn't work. Okay, that's fine. Little green guy in there, Lysimachia numeralis. Most people know that as oh gosh, dang it, that's a really common garden plant. I should know it. I can't think of the common name right now. Anyway, pausing.